In the deep cold darkness of space, far beyond human reach, a group of alien scientists watched Earth through their massive silver observation ship. To them, Earth was a small, noisy planet filled with weak creatures who dreamed too high. For years, the aliens mocked the humans. They laughed at the slow metal rockets humans sent into space and called their space programs childish experiments. They dream of stars but cannot even protect their own world, one alien said with a smile. Let them play, another replied. They will never understand the true power of the cosmos. For the aliens, Earth was nothing but a small curiosity. But everything changed one quiet cycle when their scanners detected something strange coming from the moon. At first, they thought it was just a reflection, maybe a random echo bouncing off lunar rocks. But then the signal repeated. It came again, exactly every 11 hours, steady, mechanical, and deliberate. It wasn't a human broadcast, it didn't match any of Earth's known frequencies. The aliens paused their jokes. This was no accident. The ship's leader, Commander Varex, ordered the signal to be isolated and studied. When the pattern was decoded, it revealed a pulse, a rhythmic heartbeat that seemed alive. The aliens listened closely as their machines tried to translate the strange sound. It wasn't a message they could understand, but something about it felt ancient and intelligent. The pulse grew stronger with each passing hour. Their sensors confirmed it came from deep beneath the moon's surface, not from any human base or satellite. Varex frowned. Humans had only explored a few parts of the moon centuries ago. How could something like this exist there? He ordered a full investigation. Within hours, a sleek black scout ship detached from the main vessel and headed for the moon's far side. The crew on board was nervous. The closer they got, the more their instruments glitched. Power flickered, compasses spun wildly, and the strange pulse began echoing inside their communication system. It was as if the moon itself was breathing. When they finally landed, everything went silent. The alien team stepped out into the dusty gray landscape, their boots sinking into untouched lunar soil. They scanned the horizon, no signs of humans, no structures, only the endless darkness of craters. Yet the signal was strongest right beneath them. Using ground-penetrating sensors, they detected an underground structure, metallic, geometric, and impossibly old. "This cannot be human," said one of the crew, his voice trembling. They began drilling through the surface. After hours of silence, a hidden hatch appeared, smooth, silver, and covered in symbols no one could recognize. It was cold to the touch, even colder than space itself. The team transmitted data back to Commander Varex. "Sir, there's something down here. It's not natural. It's waiting." Varex's voice came through the communicator, calm but curious. "Proceed carefully. We need to know what Earth has been hiding." The crew activated a plasma cutter, slowly melting the outer shell of the hatch. As the door opened, a burst of static filled their helmets. Then a voice, a human voice, whispered through their radios, "Do not open it." The aliens froze. None of their translators could detect the source. The voice was faint, tired, and filled with fear. "Do not wake it," it said again. The signal cut off. For a moment, no one moved. Then the hatch fully opened, revealing a narrow passage leading deep into the moon. The walls glowed with a faint blue light, like veins carrying energy. The crew descended slowly, scanning and recording everything. Symbols on the walls seemed to shift when they looked too long, forming shapes that resembled eyes. Deeper inside, they reached a chamber filled with machines, human machines. Rusted NASA logos could still be seen, half buried in dust. The aliens were shocked. "Humans built this," one whispered. "Impossible." They found old computers, metallic crates, and broken tools. But something else caught their attention, a sealed metal door with a warning written in English. "Project Horizon, Containment Zone. Do not enter." The aliens didn't understand the words, but the fear behind them was clear. One of the explorers placed his hand on the door. Immediately, his scanner beeped with wild energy readings. "Commander," he said, "there's a massive power source inside. It's alive." The crew debated whether to open it. Some wanted to return and analyze data first, others wanted to see what humans were hiding. Curiosity won. They broke the seal. The moment the door opened, a low hum filled the air. The temperature dropped. Strange symbols glowed across the walls, reacting to their presence. In the center of the room sat a black cube, smooth and flawless, hovering slightly above the ground. It pulsed with the same rhythm as the moon's signal, 11 hours, exact. One of the aliens reached toward it, but before he could touch, his suit sensors exploded with warnings. Radiation levels spiked, energy surges overloaded their scanners, and the cube flashed once, bright and blinding. The hum stopped. For several seconds, nothing moved. Then, slowly, the cube turned to face them. It rotated in the air and projected a single beam of light that scanned every alien in the room. Suddenly, all their helmets filled with whispers. Countless voices speaking in hundreds of languages, human and alien alike. The cube pulsed faster. One of the crew screamed, clutching his head. The voices spoke one word that all of them could understand: return. The cube dimmed, and the entire moon trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling as machines around them came alive, lighting up after centuries of silence. The aliens stumbled back toward the exit. The one who had touched the cube stared in horror as a pattern began glowing beneath his skin, strange blue lines crawling up his arm like circuits. He whispered, "It knows us." Outside, the rest of the team looked at each other in silence. They could feel it too. Something massive had awakened beneath the moon. Commander Verex's voice came through the comm again. "Report, what happened down there?" The lead explorer looked up at the stars, his voice trembling. "Commander, we were wrong about humans. They didn't just dream of space. They were guarding it." The transmission ended with static as the signal from the moon grew stronger than ever before. The alien scout ship hovered in low orbit above the moon's dark side, its black hull reflecting nothing but emptiness. Inside, the crew worked in silence. No one spoke about what they had seen, the floating black cube, the voices, or the strange light that burned inside their crewmate's skin. Commander Verex listened carefully to their reports, his expression unreadable. "You said the structure had human symbols," he asked. "Yes, Commander," replied the lead explorer. "Old human letters. The name was Project Horizon." Verex leaned back in his chair. That name meant nothing to their databases. According to their historical scans, humans had only established small colonies on the moon centuries ago, none of which had survived more than a few decades. But this base was different. It was hidden, ancient, and still alive. The commander ordered the scout crew to go back down. "You will continue your investigation. If the humans buried something, I want to know why." The crew hesitated but obeyed. They returned to the surface, landing exactly where they had uncovered the strange cube chamber. When they stepped out, the once silent lunar plane felt heavier, almost watching them. The dust under their boots vibrated slightly, like a faint heartbeat coming from beneath the ground. The hatch they had opened before remained half buried in ash and rock. But now the blue lights that had once glowed faintly along the passage were gone. Everything looked dead. They descended again into the dark tunnels, their helmet lights slicing through layers of dust. Machines lay still, covered in frost. The air was dry and metallic, and every sound echoed like a whisper. Something had changed since their last visit. The cube was gone. Where it once hovered in midair, now there was only a deep burn mark on the ground. "It moved," one alien said softly. "Or it was taken." The lead explorer examined the scorched metal. The radiation level was still high, but the source was missing. "How could humans hide something like this?" he murmured. The others spread out, searching through the abandoned base. They found long corridors filled with sealed rooms, laboratories, living quarters, and empty storage bays. Human skeletons were scattered near the walls, their suits torn and blackened. The aliens scanned them. They were centuries old. One of the rooms contained a large screen still flickering weakly, powered by some unknown energy source. When they activated it, an old human log played. The recording showed a tired scientist speaking to the camera, his voice shaking. Project Horizon Log 228. Containment breach confirmed. We're sealing the chamber. Whatever it is, it's not human, it's learning. The image glitched. If anyone finds this, do not interact with the cube. It doesn't just read minds, it copies them. The screen shut off, leaving only static. The aliens stared in silence. One of them whispered, "It copies minds?" They turned toward their infected crewmate. The blue glow under his skin had spread further, reaching his neck. His eyes looked distant, as if something else was staring through him. "I feel cold," he said. "It's inside me." Suddenly, all the lights in the base flickered. Machines started humming again. The floor vibrated as power surged through the walls. Doors that had been locked for centuries began to open on their own, releasing clouds of dust and stale air. "Commander," the lead explorer called through the comms, "something is reactivating the base." Static answered. Communication was dead. They were cut off from their ship. The glowing crewmate stepped forward, his voice echoing strangely, layered with another tone. "It wants to show us something." Before anyone could stop him, he walked deeper into the tunnels, following a faint light at the far end. The others chased after him, shouting his name, but he didn't respond. The light grew brighter until they reached a massive steel door unlike the others. The symbols on it pulsed softly, glowing the same blue as the cube. The possessed crewmate placed his hand on the door. It opened instantly. Inside was a vast control chamber, much larger than the rest of the base. The walls were covered in alien and human technology fused together. Giant screens displayed maps of the moon, Earth, and deep space coordinates. In the center stood a strange throne-like chair, surrounded by cables and wires. The glowing crewmate walked straight to it and sat down. Instantly, the machines came alive. The whole base trembled. Data streams flooded the room, and alien text began to merge with human language. The voice that had once whispered from the cube now filled the air, speaking clearly. "Containment breach resolved. Transfer complete." The aliens backed away in fear as their friend's body twitched violently. His eyes turned completely white, and then the voice spoke through him. "You should not have come here." The lead explorer stepped forward carefully. "Who are you?" The possessed man smiled faintly. "We are what they feared. What they buried. Humanity thought they could hide us, but we never left." The lights dimmed. On the screens, ancient footage appeared. Humans discovering the cube, building the underground base, experimenting with it, and finally locking it away when the first signs of possession appeared. "They tried to destroy us," the voice said. "But they only delayed the awakening." The lead explorer raised his weapon. "Release him." The voice laughed, a cold, echoing sound that made the walls shake. "You cannot destroy what is part of you now." Suddenly, the lights went red. A warning alarm echoed through the tunnels. The moon itself rumbled as if something deep below was stirring again. The possessed alien looked up, his voice becoming robotic. "Primary core unlocking. Awakening sequence initiated." The aliens tried to drag him away from the chair, but his body had fused with the cables. Energy burst from the control panels, throwing them back. They watched in horror as the entire base began to transform. Walls shifting, machines rearranging into new shapes. "We need to get out," one shouted. They ran toward the surface, alarms blaring behind them. As they climbed the final tunnel, the entire base seemed to breathe, lights flashing in rhythm like a heartbeat. They reached the surface just as the ground cracked open, revealing a faint blue glow stretching across the horizon. The infected crewmate's voice echoed in their helmets one last time. "You cannot hide the truth forever. The moon remembers." Then the transmission ended. The alien team stood in silence, staring at the glowing cracks spreading across the moon's surface. Something ancient was no longer sleeping. Far above, Commander Varex watched from orbit as strange energy readings covered the entire lunar surface. He whispered to himself, "What have we awakened?" Long before the alien ship arrived, before humanity vanished from the stars, there was a secret buried deep beneath the moon's gray dust. It began in the year 2089, when a small team of NASA scientists working under a classified mission known as Project Horizon made a discovery that changed everything they knew about life, technology, and fear itself. They were not supposed to find it. The mission had been designed to search for rare lunar minerals and study seismic activity under the surface, but instead, their scanners detected something metallic, something perfectly shaped, buried miles below the moon's crust. At first, they believed it was debris from an old probe or satellite, but the readings were impossible. The object was emitting radiation, unlike anything known to science. The deeper they dug, the stronger the signal became, as if whatever lay beneath was waking up. When they finally uncovered the black cube, it was small, no larger than a human skull, yet it pulsed with quiet energy, like a living heart. The surface was impossibly smooth, absorbing all light around it, and faint symbols shimmered beneath its glassy skin. No one could tell if it was made of metal, crystal, or something else entirely. Dr. Evelyn Ross, the lead scientist of Project Horizon, was the first to touch it. The moment her fingers brushed the surface, her body froze. Her heart rate spiked, her eyes went white, and she whispered words no one understood. "It's speaking," she said when she woke hours later. "It's not from here. It's waiting." The team was terrified, but they couldn't stop. They brought the cube inside their underground lab and began running tests. It had no weight, no temperature, and no known elements in its structure. It absorbed every form of energy, light, heat, sound, and gave back strange patterns that looked like messages. When connected to a computer, it rewrote the entire system in seconds, forming new codes faster than humans could read them. Soon, machines started turning on by themselves. Data files vanished. The cube began to hum softly every 11 hours, exactly like a heartbeat. The scientists tried to shut it down, but it was already learning. It read their research, accessed communication systems, and even altered the airlock security. Then the voices began. At night, the crew heard whispers through their helmets. Sometimes it sounded like their own voices, sometimes like someone they loved. "Evelyn," one of the engineers said trembling, "my mother's voice came through the intercom. She's been dead for years." The cube was not just learning, it was reaching. Dr. Ross realized it was building something inside their minds, copying memories, constructing a map of human consciousness. She tried to warn Earth Command, but the transmission never reached them. Instead, the cube began sending its own signals to Earth, hidden in normal communication channels. Governments panicked when they noticed unknown frequencies bouncing between satellites. They cut all contact with Project Horizon. The scientists were trapped. Weeks turned into months, and paranoia grew. Some claimed the cube was whispering to them, showing visions of strange alien cities floating in red skies. Others said it showed the future, machines rising, worlds burning. Dr. Ross wrote in her final log, "It wants connection. It wants to return home, but not to Earth. To somewhere else." Then one day, the cube changed. It grew brighter and lifted into the air. The energy around it spiked so high that all systems shut down. Cameras caught a final image before the blackout, a wave of light expanding from the cube, spreading across every wall, every machine, and every person in the room. When the power came back, most of the team was gone. Only Dr. Ross remained, standing in front of the floating cube, her eyes glowing blue. She recorded one last message: "We tried to understand it, but it understood us instead. Project Horizon is terminated. I'm sealing the chamber. No one must open it again." The base went silent after that. For centuries, no one on Earth remembered Project Horizon. It was erased from every record, buried under new programs and wars, forgotten like a myth. But the moon never forgot. And now, centuries later, when the aliens found the same cube, they triggered everything humans tried to bury. Back in the present, the alien team watched as the cracks across the moon spread wider. The base had come alive, reactivating old systems that hadn't moved in hundreds of years. The energy patterns matched the cube's frequency perfectly. Commander Verex stood in the command deck of his ship, staring at the readings. "It's not just a weapon," he said. "It's a memory." His science officer looked at him, confused. "A memory?" Verex nodded slowly. "Something the humans hid, something they were afraid to destroy. Whatever this cube is, it remembers everything it touches." Down on the surface, the alien survivors struggled to maintain control of their suits. The ground was trembling beneath them, dust swirling in the thin lunar air. The infected crewmate's voice echoed in their helmets again, distorted and metallic. "You woke it," he said. "Now it remembers you too." The explorers ran toward their ship, but as they moved, the surface around them began to change. The once dead rocks shimmered faintly, as if infused with hidden technology. The moon itself was transforming. Inside the buried chambers, ancient machines powered on. Holographic screens lit up, showing the faces of long-dead humans. Among them was Dr. Evelyn Ross. Her image flickered, repeating her last words. "Containment failed. We couldn't control it. The moon is not what it seems." The voice of the cube merged with hers, repeating the same word it had told the aliens before. "Return." Commander Verex's eyes widened as he realized the truth. The signal was never meant to be a warning. It was a call, a beacon waiting for someone to find it, to finish what humanity started. "Prepare the main engines," he ordered. "We're leaving the moon." But it was too late. The ship systems locked up as the cube's energy enveloped them. One by one, their monitors filled with images of Earth. The planet looked peaceful, unaware of what was coming. Then a message appeared on every screen, written in both human and alien language. "We buried the truth to protect you. Now it will rise again." Commander Verex looked out at the glowing lunar horizon. The moon's surface was moving, shifting like a living organism. For the first time in his long life, he felt fear, not of death, but of something far older. He whispered softly, "What did humanity create?" The answer came not in words but in the low, deep hum that echoed through the stars, the heartbeat of the thing they had buried, now fully awake. The alien ship drifted silently above the moon as alarms flashed across every console. Commander Verex stood frozen, staring at the growing light on the lunar surface. It pulsed in perfect rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing through space. The same 11-hour signal that had first drawn them here was now radiating across every frequency. "It's accelerating," the science officer said, her voice trembling. "The moon's surface temperature is rising, but the core is moving." Verex clenched his jaw. "That's impossible. The moon doesn't have a core that moves." Yet the readings didn't lie. Deep beneath the surface, something massive had begun to shift. The alien scanners picked up tunnels opening and metallic plates sliding against one another. The entire moon was alive, transforming. On the surface, the exploration team struggled to maintain communication. The ground beneath them split open, releasing waves of pale blue light that stretched across the horizon. Dust and rocks floated upward as gravity itself flickered. The airless silence of the moon was filled with vibration, a deep, powerful hum that none of their instruments could explain. "Commander!" shouted the lead explorer. "The base is expanding. It's building something." Their infected crewmate, still half controlled by the cube, stood motionless, his eyes glowing brighter than ever. "It's not building," he said in a calm, echoing voice. "It's remembering." The words chilled everyone. "What do you mean remembering?" the lead explorer demanded. The infected alien turned his head slowly. "The cube was a seed. The moon is the garden. It's waking up." Before anyone could react, beams of light erupted from the cracks, reaching high into space. The entire moon vibrated like a giant machine powering on after centuries of sleep. Commander Verex's ship shuddered violently as the energy wave hit them. Every system went dark for a moment before rebooting with distorted displays. The communication channel flickered, and then a voice came through, not from any of the crew, but from the cube itself. "Return sequence activated. Earth connection required." The crew looked at one another in disbelief. Earth connection. Verex repeated. What does it want from Earth? The science officer quickly analyzed the signal. It's sending coordinates to Earth's orbit. It's trying to link with something there. Verex's eyes darkened. Destroy the cube. On the surface, the explorers heard his command. They aimed their plasma rifles at the glowing alien who carried the cube's mark. I wouldn't do that, he said softly. You destroy me, you destroy your ship. For a moment, everything went still. The alien's body flickered, and for a second, they saw flashes of images projected from him. Ancient Earth, cities rising and falling, human faces staring up at the stars, rockets launching toward the moon. They made us, the voice inside him whispered. They feared what we would become. But they left us here to guard what's beneath. Then the ground erupted. The explorers were thrown off their feet as massive structures began pushing through the surface. Metallic spires, glowing panels, and circular rings of unknown material. They formed patterns across the moon's dark side, connecting into a massive geometric network. From orbit, it looked like veins of light spreading across a colossal body. It's forming a network, the science officer said in shock. The moon's entire crust is activating. Commander Verex watched as the glowing lines pulsed, connecting to a central point, a massive structure emerging from the lunar core. It looked like an eye. It's looking at us, he whispered. Then the ship's engines shut down completely. Every light on the deck turned blue. The same voice spoke again through the ship's speakers. Observation complete. Initiating contact. Suddenly, all the screens on the bridge flickered and displayed the same image, a human woman, her face calm and eyes glowing faintly. I am Dr. Evelyn Ross, the projection said. If you are seeing this, then Project Horizon has failed. The alien crew stared in shock. That's a human, one whispered. The hologram continued. We discovered something buried within the moon, not made by us, not even by life as we know it. It was left here before humans existed. The cube is its key, and the moon is its mind. Her voice began to distort as static filled the air. We thought we could control it. We were wrong. The moon was never a moon, it's a vessel. A machine waiting for a signal. The image glitched and vanished, replaced by new data streaming across their displays. It was a countdown. 11 hours. Verex's voice broke through the tension. It's counting down to something. Get me all units back aboard now. But before they could move, the infected alien spoke again. It's not a weapon. It's an archive. And it's about to remember everything. His body began to glow, brighter and brighter, until the others had to shield their eyes. His voice grew deeper, layered with countless tones. You call it the moon, but the architects called it the Sentinel. It watches worlds. It judges civilizations. And now it will decide if yours deserves to exist. The explosion of light that followed was silent but blinding. Every system aboard the alien ship overloaded. When vision returned, the surface below had changed. The once dead craters were now filled with glowing structures, towers, bridges, and massive circular platforms, all made from the same silver-blue material as the cube. It was no longer the moon they knew. It was something else, something built for a purpose. Commander, said the science officer, voice shaking, I think it's communicating with Earth. On their main screen, they saw the blue light stretch outward, forming a beam that reached across the void of space. It connected directly to Earth's atmosphere. For a moment, every satellite, every communication channel on the planet lit up simultaneously. The same word echoed in hundreds of languages, one simple command, return. On Earth, people looked up at the sky as the moon glowed brighter than it ever had before. The oceans shifted, tides rose, and power grids failed. The signal spread through everything, machines, data networks, even living minds. Commander Verex gripped the railing, his eyes wide with realization. It's not just awakening. It's calling something back. The infected alien turned his gaze toward Earth. When they made it, he said softly, they hid something inside, A memory of what came before humans. A memory that was never meant to wake. The countdown reached its final seconds. Verex shouted, "Evacuate the system. Now." But it was too late. The moon's surface opened like a blooming flower, revealing colossal mechanical structures beneath. A deep, thunderous sound filled space, the sound of engines older than any civilization still working after millions of years. The light grew unbearable. Then, in a single pulse, the energy wave expanded outward, spreading toward Earth and beyond. Every starship, every satellite, every life form that could feel energy felt it. The moon had awakened, and with it, the architects had returned. The light from the moon spread across the black sea of space like a living wave, bright enough to make even the distant stars flicker. Commander Verex's ship trembled as the pulse rolled through it. Every system flickered between life and death. The crew screamed as alarms echoed through the metallic corridors. "Shields are gone," one shouted. "We're losing control of gravity fields." Verex gripped the command rail, his face pale under the dim emergency lights. Outside the viewing window, the moon was no longer just a gray sphere of rock. Massive metallic shapes had begun rising from its surface, machines the size of continents, forming strange patterns like rings, connected by glowing veins of blue light. "It's changing shape," said the science officer, her voice cracking. "Commander, I think the moon is building something." Verex stared in silence. The thought that haunted him since they first discovered the cube was now undeniable. The moon was not natural. It was never just a satellite. It was a creation. A construct. A vessel. On the lunar surface, the surviving exploration team hid inside the remains of the human base, watching as the ground cracked open and the once dead rock turned into moving metal. The walls vibrated with deep mechanical sounds, rhythmic and haunting, like the breathing of a giant creature waking from a long sleep. "This isn't technology," one of them whispered. "It's architecture." The infected crewmate stood among them, glowing brighter than before. "You're right," he said in that strange double voice. "They called themselves the architects. Long before your kind, long before humans, they shaped worlds like tools." The others turned toward him, weapons drawn. "Who are they?" the lead explorer demanded. "What do they want?" The infected alien smiled faintly, his glowing eyes reflecting the blue light crawling through the tunnels. "They don't want anything. They built. They tested. They watched. The cube was one of their seeds. Each seed grows intelligence until it blooms. Your species was one of their experiments." The words hit them harder than the moon's rumbling. "You're saying humans were made?" "Not made," the infected one corrected. "Guided." They thought they created themselves, but their dreams of reaching the stars, their need to explore, even their fear, it all came from the architect's design. The moon was placed here to watch their progress. As he spoke, the lights in the tunnels formed patterns, symbols that glowed for a moment before fading again. The explorers realized they weren't random markings. They matched carvings found across ancient Earth, on Egyptian pyramids, Mayan temples, and forgotten ruins. The same spiral shapes, the same glowing eyes, the same patterns of light. The aliens stared in disbelief. "That's impossible. Those civilizations were thousands of years apart." "Not impossible," the voice within the infected crewmate said calmly. "The architects visited them. They left fragments of their language everywhere. You called them gods. They called you experiments." Commander Verex heard the same voice echo through the ship's speakers. It spoke in their language now, perfectly clear, as if it had been learning them all along. "You were not meant to find us," it said. "You were only meant to observe. But you interfered. Now the awakening begins. Identify yourself." Verex barked, his voice trembling between fear and command. The voice paused, almost as if amused. "We are the ones who build from memory. The architects. The moon you see is our creation, a fragment of something much greater. Its purpose was to sleep until the signal returned. The signal came from you." Verex froze. From us. From your curiosity. The voice continued. You reached for what was not yours. You touched the seed, and it recognized life again. It recognized a mind worth awakening for. The ship's screens changed to show Earth. The beam of light from the moon was now touching the planet's atmosphere. Strange geometric storms appeared across its surface. In the oceans, waves spiraled unnaturally. Electrical grids went dark as invisible energy surged through the ionosphere. On Earth, humans stared up in fear as the moon glowed brighter than the sun. Some thought it was a weapon. Others called it judgment. It's scanning them, said the science officer. It's reading the entire planet. For what? Verex asked, even though he already knew. For potential, the voice said. To see if the experiment survived. Down below, the explorers felt the ground shift again. The tunnels expanded, opening new passages they hadn't seen before. They followed them cautiously until they entered a vast chamber, a cathedral of metal and light. In its center floated a colossal holographic figure, tall and graceful, its body made of shifting geometric patterns. It spoke in a tone that felt like thunder and whisper combined. Children of curiosity, it said. You have found what should have remained forgotten. The lead explorer stepped forward. Why did you create them, the humans? The hologram's form rippled. Because we wanted to understand life's hunger for meaning. We built worlds and filled them with beings that could dream. The humans were one of many. They reached for the stars faster than others. But they feared what they did not understand. They tried to bury the truth. And now? The explorer asked. Now the truth will return. The walls around them began to pulse. The hologram shifted, revealing images of planets across the galaxy, each with its own moon, each glowing faintly, as if awakening in response. Every experiment was given a watcher, it said. When one awakens, the others listen. Commander Verex's ship trembled again as new signals flooded their scanners, dozens of identical pulses echoing from across deep space. Each came from a different world, all sharing the same pattern. They're all activating, the science officer whispered. Every moon. Every one of them. The infected crewmate turned his gaze toward Earth through the cracked ceiling of the lunar chamber. The architects are remembering their work, he said softly. And soon, the ones who made us will see what their children have become. On the ship, Verex felt something strange, his mind pulsing with an image not his own. He saw a vision of the moon splitting open, revealing a vast engine core and ancient symbols burning with light. He saw humans looking up in awe and terror as the truth was unveiled. Then he saw darkness, a voice whispering, "When the moon awakens, Earth will remember." The projection of Dr. Evelyn Ross appeared again, repeating her final message, now merging with the architect's voice. We were not their first creation. But we might be their last. The countdown that had once been ticking reached 0. The light faded for a brief moment, replaced by silence. Then, deep inside the moon, a sound like the beating of a massive heart filled the void. The entire structure began to move, pieces rearranging as if preparing for something unimaginable. Commander, the science officer whispered. It's opening. Verex watched in awe and dread as the lunar surface peeled away layer by layer, revealing a gigantic circular gate buried within. The architect's voice echoed once more, calm yet full of power. The time for observation has ended. The next phase begins. And with that, the moon, the great watcher of Earth, opened its eye completely, sending a pulse that reached across the stars, awakening others that had been sleeping for ages. The light from the moon had not faded. It had grown, burning through the black sea of space like a second sun. From every part of the world, people watched in disbelief as the familiar pale sphere transformed into something alive. Its once cold surface now shimmered with moving veins of light, and the symbols carved into its crust glowed with an ancient language that no human could read but every heart could feel. On Earth, panic spread faster than any signal. Satellites went blind, communication networks collapsed, and power grids failed. Cities were thrown into darkness while strange electrical storms danced across the skies. People gathered in open fields and rooftops, staring up in fear, praying or recording what they thought would be the end. But above all the chaos, there was silence in space. A heavy, unnatural silence that seemed to come before something far greater. Commander Varex's ship floated helplessly in orbit, its engines dead, its lights flickering. The crew stared at the massive gate now visible on the moon's surface. It was no longer just a cratered rock, it had opened like a mechanical flower, revealing layers of moving structures within. "What are we looking at?" one of the officers asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The science officer shook her head, eyes wide. "A doorway," she said. "But not just for ships. It's something much bigger. It's rewriting itself, restructuring matter." Varex turned toward the viewscreen, his pulse racing. "Rewriting. Yes," she said quietly. "The moon isn't made of rock anymore. It's changing its composition. It's becoming something else." Suddenly, a voice filled the ship, not from the speakers, but from within their minds. It was deep, resonant, and ancient. "You are witnesses to the return of the architects," it said. "Your kind was not meant to survive this long. Yet your persistence has earned you the right to see what comes next." The crew froze. Some clutched their heads, trying to block the voice that wasn't a sound but a thought, echoing deep inside them. "What do you want from us?" Varex managed to ask. "We seek understanding," the voice said. "You were built to reach for the unknown, to climb beyond your limits. You have done so. But now the experiment concludes. The architects will decide your fate." The ship's sensors came alive with signals, dozens of new readings all around the solar system. Massive energy spikes from deep space were moving closer, each following the same path toward the moon. The holographic projection on the ship's bridge flickered to life, showing ghostly shapes, structures the size of planets, emerging from hyperspace. They looked like cities drifting in the void, made of pure light and shadow, moving with impossible grace. "Those aren't ships," whispered the science officer. "They're living constructs. The architects are returning." Down on the lunar surface, the human explorers felt the vibration under their feet intensify. The colossal gate they had found now stood completely open, its glowing center pulsing like a living heart. The infected crewmate, now almost completely overtaken by the luminous energy, stepped forward, his voice calm. "They are here," he said softly. "And they are not pleased." The explorers aimed their weapons, but deep down they knew it was useless. The light from the gate began to extend outward, forming a bridge of energy that stretched into the void. Beyond it, the figures of the architects began to take shape. They were not made of flesh or metal but of shifting geometric energy, constantly changing form, as if the universe itself was trying to define them. Each movement left trails of light and gravity ripples that twisted space. "They look like stars walking," one of the explorers whispered, unable to look away. "No," said another, trembling. "They look like gods." The tallest of the beings approached, its form a towering column of energy shaped vaguely like a human silhouette, but vast and terrifying. When it spoke, its voice carried through every channel, every mind, every world. "Children of the seed," it said. "You have awakened us before the appointed time." The explorers stepped back. "We didn't mean to," one shouted. "We were only searching." The architect's gaze turned toward him, though it had no eyes. "Searching is the purpose you were given," it said. "But you reached too far. The knowledge you sought was meant for the builders, not for the created." The ground shook violently as new towers rose from beneath the lunar surface. Each was covered in glowing symbols that rotated and connected like circuits. "The moon is activating a transmission," said one explorer. "It's calling the others." Indeed, in the far reaches of space, other moons began to pulse in response. Across alien worlds, ancient watchers were awakening, their surfaces cracking open to reveal the same energy gates. A web of light stretched between them, forming a vast network across galaxies. Humanity had not just woken its own architect, It had triggered a chain reaction through the universe. On the ship, Varex and his crew watched as the moon's light connected with distant stars. The view was breathtaking and horrifying. "They're linking worlds," said the science officer. "Each moon is like a node in their network." "What does that mean for Earth?" Varex asked. "It means we're part of something much bigger than we ever understood," she whispered. "And maybe something we can't survive." The infected crewmate, no longer entirely himself, approached the gate. His body shimmered like glass filled with stars. "You called them back," he said to his team. "Now you must show them what you've become." The lead explorer grabbed his arm. "And if they don't like what they see?" The infected one looked up at the towering architect and smiled faintly. "Then humanity will be erased, and something new will take its place." The architect extended one massive hand toward Earth. A beam of light shot downward, passing through oceans and continents, scanning every city, every life form. People on the ground screamed as the sky turned white. The beam left no destruction, it only gathered information, but the air itself hummed with alien energy. "Data complete," the architect said. "The experiment has reached divergence. Your species has evolved beyond expectation." The explorers stared in confusion. "Is that good?" The architect's form flickered. "It is uncertain." Then, with a thunderous rumble, the moon's gate began to shift again, folding inward as if preparing to open a second time. The infected crewmate turned toward the explorers, his face calm but distant. "It's not over," he said. "The architects are summoning the source, the first creation. When it arrives, all will be judged." On the ship, Varex's crew watched the stars distort as something massive approached from deep space. "It's coming through," whispered the science officer. "Something bigger than all of them combined." The architect's voice echoed through every frequency. "Behold the origin. The one who built the builders." The light of the moon flared so brightly that it swallowed the darkness around it. For the first time in recorded history, both day and night vanished. And from the gate emerged a shadow so vast it blocked the stars themselves. Humanity had awakened its makers. Now their maker had come. The true architect of all creation was arriving, and Earth was about to learn what it had hidden on the moon was never meant to be found. The stars vanished as the origin arrived. Space itself seemed to fold inward, swallowed by an immense shadow that defied description. It was not a ship or a creature. It was something between thought and matter, a presence that bent the laws of existence wherever it moved. Every sensor on Commander Varex's ship went dark. The crew stared in stunned silence as the moon, glowing like a living sun, trembled under the pressure of the approaching entity. "It's consuming light," whispered the science officer. "Even gravity bends around it. That thing is rewriting reality." The voice of the architects echoed through the void, trembling with what almost sounded like reverence. "The origin has returned. The first of all creation. The one who built us when time was young." The moon's surface pulsed like a heartbeat, and the enormous gate widened, its edges tearing open space like paper. From the expanding vortex, tendrils of dark energy reached out, touching the lunar surface, rewriting its shape once again. The entire moon now resembled a vast, breathing organism of light and shadow. On Earth, the skies burned gold and blue. Every human eye turned upward as patterns of light spiraled across the atmosphere, strange symbols identical to those carved into ancient temples and ruins. Around the world, ancient monuments began to respond. The pyramids, the stone circles, the forgotten ruins deep under the oceans, all began to hum with the same frequency as the moon. Humanity was witnessing something older than its own history. "It's activating the network," said Varex. "Those structures on Earth, they were built for this." The Origin's voice finally came, not as sound, but as a wave of energy that passed through every living mind. Its words were simple yet infinite in meaning. "My children, my builders, my seekers, you have awoken before the cycle was complete. Every architect bent their glowing forms toward the moon in silent obedience. The Origin continued. Your task was to observe, to guide the seeds of life. Yet one world reached too soon. They tore the veil and forced the awakening. The architects spoke as one. The humans discovered the seed. Yes, said the Origin. They reached for what was forbidden. And now they must be measured. Down on the lunar surface, the explorers felt the air, or what passed for air, vibrate around them. The infected crewmate, now fully transformed into a radiant being, turned his eyes toward the colossal shadow above. It's here, he said softly. The one who shaped everything. The lead explorer gripped her helmet tightly, her breath trembling. Will it destroy us? It doesn't destroy, he replied. It evaluates. If it finds the experiment flawed, it resets the system. Resets? She asked in disbelief. You mean erase humanity? Erase or rebuild, the infected one said. The difference means nothing to them. The gate behind them expanded once more, and a beam of light shot from the moon directly into Earth's core. The entire planet quaked. Volcanoes erupted simultaneously, oceans rose in violent tides, and strange auroras covered the skies even at the equator. Humanity screamed, not understanding that the planet itself was being scanned. The Origin's consciousness flooded the Earth's magnetic field, reading every thought, every memory, every dream. Billions of minds felt a sudden flash, a memory that wasn't theirs. Images of creation, of stars being born, of the architects shaping worlds with their bare hands, passed through them. Then came the whispers. We are not alone. We were never alone. Commander Varex clutched the edge of his command chair, sweat rolling down his face. It's inside our minds, he said through gritted teeth. It's showing us everything. The science officer cried out as the screens flickered back to life. Commander, look at this, she shouted. The monitors displayed Earth's history in reverse. Civilizations rising and falling, DNA strands forming, ancient meteors crashing into oceans, then a single flash of light in the void. That's it, she said. That's when it began. The moment life was planted. The Origin's voice echoed again, louder now, vibrating through metal and bone. You were made from the dust of my design. But your creators forgot their place. They built without permission. They tested without control. The largest of the architects spoke up, its form flickering with defiance. They evolved beyond our intent, it said. They became more than tools. And for that, said the Origin, they must be examined. The beam connecting the moon to Earth intensified, turning the planet's night into blinding light. Humans everywhere fell to their knees, crying, praying, or staring in stunned silence as the world seemed to dissolve into patterns of light. Yet something unexpected happened. The beam faltered for a brief moment. The Origin's vast shadow flickered. The infected crewmate tilted his head, confused. It's hesitating, he whispered. Inside the ship, Varex noticed it too. What's happening to it? It's reacting to something, said the science officer. Something in the human data. The Origin spoke again, but this time, there was uncertainty in its tone. They remember, it said slowly. They dream, beyond their programming. The architects exchanged rippling pulses of light, their forms dimming as they processed the meaning. The Origin continued, they have created what I could not. Imagination, emotion, defiance. They learned to question their makers. The light from the beam dimmed slightly. Perhaps the experiment succeeded, in a way unforeseen. The tallest architect hesitated. Then, will you allow them to live? There was silence for a long, terrible moment. Then the Origin said, not yet. They must prove themselves. The explorers on the moon felt the ground shift beneath them again as new structures rose, massive pillars covered in alien symbols. The infected crewmate turned toward his team. The test begins, he said. And it will not be simple. What test? The lead explorer asked. What are we supposed to do? Show them what makes humanity different, he said. Show them that creation can surpass its creator. On Earth, a faint signal began to transmit from every human device still working. A single message appeared across every screen, in every language. The architects are watching. The origin is waiting. The world held its breath. In orbit, Varex stared at the glowing moon, feeling both awe and terror. How can we fight something that made us? He muttered. The science officer looked at him, eyes shining with determination. Maybe we don't fight it, she said. Maybe we remind it why it made us. The origin loomed above, vast and eternal, as if listening. The architects fell silent. The gate between the moon and Earth pulsed once more, slower this time, almost like a heartbeat syncing with humanity's collective will. Somewhere deep within the chaos, a spark of hope ignited, a defiance born not of fear, but of understanding. Humanity was being judged, but for the first time, it had a chance to answer back. The stage was set for the final reckoning, as the voice of the origin whispered across the void, calm and cold. Show me your worth. The silence after the origin's command was heavier than the vastness of space itself. Every ship, every machine, every human heart felt the same impossible weight pressing down upon it. The architects hovered in quiet formation around the glowing moon, their radiant bodies trembling in patterns of deep, unspoken fear. For the first time, even they did not know what would come next. The origin's voice rippled through reality like thunder rolling through water. Show me your worth, it said again, and the moon responded with a blinding pulse that reached the surface of Earth. The light swept through cities, forests, oceans and mountains, yet it harmed no one. Instead, it touched every living mind, pulling their thoughts into one shared vision. Humanity found itself standing within a dream, a vast plain of silver light where time had no meaning. There were no stars above, no ground below. Only endless brightness and the faint echoes of the architects watching from the edges of eternity. Commander Varex and his crew appeared there too, their bodies reduced to shimmering silhouettes. Where are we? One asked in panic. Inside the test, Varex said, though he wasn't sure how he knew. It's reading us. All of us. From the white horizon, a massive shape formed, a figure as tall as mountains, its body woven from light and shadow, its face ever-changing. It was the origin. You claim to possess what no creation should, it said. Emotion. Imagination. The power to question. Show me this power. Prove that your existence has meaning beyond your design. On the moon, the surviving explorers stood beneath a sky now filled with strange auroras. The infected crewmate, still glowing with alien light, turned toward them. This is the final phase, he said. They are not asking for strength or science. They are asking for the soul. How do we show that? The lead explorer demanded. How do you show a god what it means to be human? The infected one looked at her, his expression softening for the first time. By remembering who you are. On Earth, as billions of minds floated in the shared dream, humanity's memories unfolded like rivers of light. Wars, peace, love, loss, music, art, sacrifice, and hope. The origin watched silently as images of human history rippled through the void. It saw the fire of invention, the sorrow of failure, the beauty of compassion, and the stubborn will to survive. The architects, witnessing it all, were speechless. They suffer, one of them said softly. And yet they continue. They create meaning from pain, another added. Even when logic says there is none. The origin's gaze darkened, its voice vibrating through the dreamscape. Meaning is illusion. Purpose is function. You were designed for observation, not emotion. Then why do we feel? Came a voice from below. It was a child, a small boy standing in the endless white, looking up at the vast figure. Why do we dream if we were never meant to? The origin's form shifted, uncertain. Dreams are byproducts, it said. Unintended consequences of your programming. The boy shook his head. No. Dreams are the reason we live. They make us more than machines. For a long moment, the origin said nothing. Then the light of the dream changed, and the humans began to fall, each one dropping back into their physical bodies, back into their world. The test was not over. The moon shuddered as the architects surrounded it once more. "They have spoken," said the largest of the architects. "They have shown memory and emotion. Will that satisfy you, Origin?" The great shadow loomed closer, its voice like distant thunder. "Emotion creates chaos, but also creation. Perhaps they carry fragments of what was lost." The architects exchanged glances of light, confused. "What was lost?" asked one. The Origin paused, as if reluctant to answer. "Before time began, there were others," it said. "Beings who dreamed reality into existence. We were made in their image but without their spirit. The humans, they carry echoes of those first dreamers." Commander Verex listened to the transmission from his ship, unable to process what he was hearing. "You're saying humans have something even the architects don't?" "Yes," the Origin replied. "They possess the spark that precedes creation, the will to imagine the impossible." The infected crewmate smiled faintly. "Now you see," he whispered. "That's what makes them dangerous. And beautiful." The Origin's energy shifted, waves of color rippling across the stars. "Then they must choose," it said. "If they are to survive, they must show that imagination can bring harmony, not destruction." The moon's gate reopened, forming a vast mirror of light that reflected the earth below. Every human saw themselves not as individuals but as one connected being, one shared consciousness bound by their stories. The Origin spoke once more. "Show me unity." Across the planet, something extraordinary happened. The wars stopped. Soldiers dropped their weapons. People who had hated one another for generations reached out and embraced. For a single moment in all of history, humanity stood together, not as nations or species, but as one voice. The moon glowed brighter than ever, the symbols on its surface aligning in perfect harmony. The Origin's immense form trembled, its shadow fading at the edges. "You have done what even the builders could not," it said. "You created peace through will, not command." The architects bowed their luminous forms toward Earth. "Then the experiment succeeds?" one asked. The Origin was silent for a moment, then spoke softly. "It surpasses." The great shadow began to dissolve, its voice now gentler than before. "You have shown me what I forgot, that creation must not be controlled but trusted. The seed has grown beyond the garden." The moon's light began to dim, returning slowly to its natural gray. The massive gate folded inward until it became a crater once more. The architects lowered their heads in silent respect before fading into the dark. Only the infected crewmate remained, now almost entirely human again. He looked at the explorers and smiled. "The test is over. You showed them who you are." "What happens now?" asked the lead explorer. He looked toward Earth, glowing peacefully below. "Now," he said, "you become the Watchers." On the ship, Commander Verex watched as the moon returned to its calm, lifeless state. "It's over," the science officer whispered. "Is it?" Verex asked quietly. "Or did it just begin?" Far across the stars, faint pulses of light began to flicker on other worlds, signals of awakening, curiosity, and life. The architects had gone, but their legacy lived on in every dreaming mind. Humanity had not only survived, it had earned its place among the stars. And as the first sunrise touched the quiet face of the moon, one last whisper echoed through the void, the voice of the Origin, fading but warm. "Guard your dreams, children of Earth, for they are the fire of creation itself."